Alright, troops, strong and conditioned, live and direct from the Burpee Mobile. Now, when I said that my content was probably going to take more of a raw approach, you cannot get any more raw than a piece to camera while you're in your car. But minutes are precious, and when they become available, it's time to unload some burpee fueled thoughts for you guys out there. And the theme of this impromptu video is do not make the same mistakes I made on my burpee journey. And I will attempt to go through said burpee mistakes, and hopefully this will ring a bell or catch some of you guys' feels, so that you can then make sure that your burpee journey is smooth and you implement the proper tools in order to ensure you reach those craved high numbers in which you can build that burpee game. Number one is a mistake which was very recent to me, and it ties in with catching that cold a couple of weeks ago. Now, when you catch a cold as a man, you tend to feel really sorry for yourself, which is why women like to call it man flu, because men, their heads get down because we can't do the things we tend to do of a physical nature. We become quite incapacitated in some respects, and we tend to wallow in self-pity, of which I can be guilty myself. Now, during these times of ill health, and when you are knee-deep in the burpee game, you tend to come up with strategies on which you are going to build your approach once you regain full health. You start conjuring up these programs and these routines, and you think, right, I'm going to get back on it, and I'm going to get as fit as I can. I'm going to take it to the next level. However, that can be to your detriment, and in my case, it definitely was. One of the thoughts swirling around in my head was, how do I build my burpee base back up again? Because I'd been letting it go lately as other training modalities had started to come into play. And my go-to response was to do 300 burpees a day and start running, a la Iron Wolf September challenge from a couple of years back. So when the Monday came round, I started doing 300 burpees, and it wiped me out, although I could still complete it, which was encouraging because I knew I still had that base. And once you build that base, it tends not to go anywhere because you know how to weather the storm when it comes to burpees. However, it was far too much volume for my body to handle. And I did that for a week, and what happened? I caught the cold again. My kids came back from nursery with some crazy infection, and my cough returned with aplomb. And my recovery was set back so much. Now, the take-home message from that was, do not rush into burpees. Do not rush into burpees. Take burpees nice and slow. Take them easy. Just go laissez-faire and build up the volume over time to allow your body to acclimatise and get used to the intensity of this exercise. Because if you don't, you will come a cropper, as we say in Scotland. What also tends to happen is that you will reach burnout. Now, this is something that also ties into my earlier content, and when I first began this burpee game, I became evangelical, and I was like, you need to train every single day, you need to just hit it hard. And although I still agree with that to a certain degree, you can go over the score, as we say in Scotland, and you need to rein it in. You need to balance out the burpee devil with the burpee angel. The burpee devil will be saying, do your burpees, who cares how recovery kicks in, who cares how you feel, you need to get the burpees done, you need to cash those checks. Whereas the burpee angel will be saying, look, relax, take it easy, man, just mellow out, because the gains will come over time. And nowadays I'm tending to go towards the burpee angel. The burpee angel is always right. Good will always overcome evil in that respect. So do not go for crushing amounts of volume at the beginning of your journey. Take it slow. Build up a strategy which allows you to become acquainted with the process and allows your body to become nourished with the process, and in turn allows you to add incremental steps which the body will be able to handle without just becoming absolute chaos. So number one is always be mindful of your volume. Number two burpee mistake, and this is an extension of what I spoke with Max on the recent podcast, is that you need to ensure the longevity of certain areas in your body, and there's going to be areas in your body which are going to feel it the most. Burpee guys, it tends to be the lower back, which is a massive red flag. If you are feeling pain in your lower back, then something is inherently wrong with your technique, and you need to identify it immediately and make the necessary corrections to ensure that nothing crazy like spinal disc slippage or whatever you like to call it occurs. That's the last thing we want in this game, because that will take you out of the game for so long. And not only that, but it will have mental ramifications. A lower back injury can have serious mental implications, and it will stop you from doing things, because no man wants a sore back. It is the scourge of fitness, and it can stop you dead in your tracks. Now, what I'm specifically referring to is protective equipment, and the protective equipment that I recommend every burpee practitioner purchases are strong and sturdy wrist wraps. Wrist wraps will protect the wrists. They'll give it that degree of stability which is needed, which in that case is vital for an exercise which takes wrist flexion to the next level. If your wrists go, then your burpees go, because a sore wrist is also debilitating, and when it is factored into a burpee session, it's just going to kill gains dead in their tracks. So burpee guys should invest in a pair of wrist wraps, and it's not a case of, well, I'll wait till the pain kicks in, I'll wait till things start and then I'll get my wrist wraps. No, get them now. They are a preventive measure against any potential injuries which will occur at some point down the road. All burpee guys are going to get a potential wrist issue. So I strongly recommend that all burpee guys purchase a pair of wrist wraps. Just make sure they're sturdy and you can get them tight around the wrist. They are a mainstay in my sessions. You can see throughout all my content, I have always worn wrist wraps for the majority of my sessions. I understand there's some sessions where the wrist wraps won't be available. Don't let that put you off, but by all means buy a pair of wrist wraps. That takes me to number 3, and this is another bone of contention, and it's a point I am going to hammer home at all costs, which is, do not let the burpee become the sole focus of your fitness sessions. Burpees are just part of the puzzle, and burpee guys need to incorporate a pulling motion and a squatting motion into the mix to create that well-rounded physique and that well-rounded base, so that we can truly become fatigue resistant, as the Iron Wolf calls it. Now, becoming fatigue resistant means that you need to develop a whole body approach, because in a burpee session, the body parts which are going to become primarily fatigued are the chest, shoulders and triceps. However, the back and the legs aren't going to receive the same stimulus. So in that respect, you need to incorporate them in your fitness sessions as well. Now, I understand a lot of burpee guys can't do pull-ups, so it's up to them to decide how they can then develop the skill to ensure that they can do pull-ups. Classic strategies for this are investing in a rubber band, which will allow you to pull yourself up easily, and also developing stages in which you can then build up to a pull-up, namely through inverted rows, and then doing something that increases the angle over time. What I tend to find works from the offset is just hanging from things, because ultimately you want to master your own body weight. The ability to master your own body weight is going to have such a profound effect on your ability to do chin-ups over time. Another one which guys need to take on board, and it's probably a bit of a controversial point nowadays for some crazy reason, and it's you need to lose weight. The lighter you are, the easier chin-ups become to perform. And if you're a 300-pound guy, chin-ups are probably going to be out of the question at this point, but you need to have that as a goal, and the only way you're going to implement that, if you cannot do a chin-up, is by losing weight. That is going to make everything a lot easier. Now, burpee mistake number 4 is a continuation of number 3, which is do not become evangelical about the burpee, because to become evangelical is to become dogmatic, and it's also to become narrow-minded in some respects. And what happens is that you will eventually do yourself harm in some respects, because you will realise that in order to become well-rounded, you need to incorporate other things, and you can pigeonhole yourself in by becoming dogmatic. So you need to approach burpees with an open mind. Burpee mistake number 5 is something that guys who like to incorporate weights into the mix, and is that they are going to have to make a decision with regards to where they are going to prioritise their efforts. I have tried the approach of putting burpees in with weights, and it works to a certain degree, but burpees are like levelling out a weight which you try to maintain stable. If you're putting more on one side, then something has to come out the other side to maintain that stable seesaw. You cannot go full bore with these exercises unless you are a freak of nature, someone like Jared Miller, who just possesses a complete 1 in a million mindset. Most people don't have that mindset, therefore they have to do their due diligence with their regime or what they are doing when it comes to focusing on a exercise modality in which they want to get the most out of. If you want to build muscle, then it's probably best that you go down the free weights resistance training route. However, you can also use burpees to supplement this. However, if conditioning is the goal, then you switch it round. Burpees, bodyweight training, particularly high rep, has to become the mode of choice. Therefore, the weights has to then become something a bit more focused. Instead of doing high volume bodybuilding style training, you're probably better off focusing on strength training, low reps, 3-4 sets, keeping it as minimal as you can and just building from there. Now, hopefully these tips can allow you guys to ensure that there is a smooth road which will enable you to enter the Holy Land when it comes to burpees. Because at the end of the day, I understand how people feel about burpees. When you start your burpee journey, you want to get good at this. You want to be the top boy when it comes to this, and you throw yourself in with aplomb. However, you need to also be strategic. The beautiful thing about burpees is that it's simple. It's a simple exercise, and this is why I prefer burpees, or speaking about burpees, as opposed to weights, because weights is one of those areas where it's just constant bones of contention appearing. People always have different systems. This system's the best. Science proves that if you do this, you'll get a better result, whereas burpees are pure, and this is where Max Edwards gets it right. Max gets it right a lot of times, but this is where he definitely gets it right. Burpees are pure. There is not a lot of science or overthinking involved in the process. They are just burpees. We do burpees, we let the numbers accumulate over time, and we become fitter and more well conditioned through the process. So anyway guys, just some random raw material for you guys to chew over. Hopefully keep the fire burning, keep the burpees bumping, and just let the magic happen. Anyway, guys, thank you. Thank you for staying strong, and thank you for staying conditioned.